History is written by the victors. This means that the facts we take for granted are merely one version, rewritten thousands of times. We invite you to look at it differently. At the core of our series lies a hypothesis grounded in the laws of the theory of history, one that resolves thousands of contradictions found in conventional scholarship. We will trace the journey from the family of Noah to our own time, exploring the central history of the chosen nation and the three peripheral streams, south, west, and east. History does not forgive mistakes. It erases empires that move against its current. To influence the future, one must understand the direction of that current. This is not merely an alternative view of the past, it is the key to the present and the future. Hello everyone. Today we will explore a profound providential theme that reveals the structure of distribution of the central chosen peoples throughout human history. We will see how the law of Cain and Abel, described in the divine principle, operates, and how God, in accordance with this law, guides the history of restoration, using nations standing on the positions of good and evil, to ultimately bring the world to unity. The first central chosen people of Abel's type appeared among the descendants of Shem, in the family of Abraham. It was here that the foundation of faith was laid through the internal ideology of Judaism. This people became the first Israel, which was to prepare the way for the coming of the Messiah and become the spiritual center for all humanity. God chose Abraham and his descendants so that through them all nations of the earth would be blessed. However, in historical providence, God always has a backup plan. Apart from the lineage of Abraham, another branch of Shem's descendants laid the foundation for a reserve Israel in the Far East. This people settled on the territory where today the Korean Peninsula and the Japanese islands are located. In those times, it was a single landmass, but after the separation occurred by the sea, this eastern people divided into two. Japan took the position of Cain, and Korea took the position of Abel. And throughout history, these two branches have been at enmity with each other. It was Korea that, in the early 20th century, laid the foundation for the emergence of what is called the Israel of the East, as a Christian people zealously devoted to the worship of God. Officially, in providential history, the second Israel became the Christian people. This happened because the messenger of God, the Messiah, was not accepted by the chosen Jewish people. Moreover, with the help of the Romans, he was sent to the cross. However, the followers of Jesus, also being descendants of Shem and Abraham, began to spread the new ideology, Christianity, among the Romans, who were descendants of Japheth. Thus, the Roman Empire and all subsequent Christian states received a double blessing: external civilization and dominion from Japheth, and the internal central ideology from Shem and Abraham. That is why the center of world civilization shifted from the Middle East to Europe. In contrast to the Christian ideology of the Abel's type, the ideology of Islam emerged in the Middle East, which took the position of Cain. It began to spread rapidly from the Arabian Peninsula throughout North Africa and the Middle East. Thus, two opposing camps were formed, two centers of power that entered into conflict with each other, instead of uniting to fulfill the will of God. By the year 800 AD, a unified Christian empire had formed in Europe, led by Charlemagne, and in the Middle East and North Africa, the unified Muslim empire, the Abbasid Caliphate, whose center was Baghdad, and whose ruler was Caliph Harun al-Rashid. From the perspective of the providence of restoration, these two empires were supposed to unite to create a world empire, which could later receive the messenger of God and unite the entire world. This would have been a global union of Abel and Cain at the national level. But, unfortunately, this did not happen. Instead of uniting, the Christian and Muslim empires began to fight each other. The Crusades, endless wars, all this led to both empires crumbling into many warring states. Due to the lack of unity, the law of redemptive history came into effect, which predicted the arrival of a new center from the east. The division of Europe and the Middle East led to the providential baton being passed further east. At that time, in the Far East, in the northeastern part of Asia, a new world power emerged, Great Tartary. The descendants of Japheth, who had moved to this part of Asia, assimilated with the descendants of Shem and Eastern ideologies, such as Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, and later, with Christianity and Islam. By the 13th century, this empire was able to capture all of Asia, reaching the borders of Western Europe and seizing the entire Middle East. Great Tartary created a world empire that united many peoples and cultures. This became a serious threat to the existence of both Christian Europe and the Muslim world. According to the providential view, the myth of the Mongol Tatar Empire was created later to erase from world history the shame of the fall of European civilization, and to hide the very fact of the existence of the largest world empire in all of human history, Great Tartary. It was a powerful blow to the self-awareness of the Western world, and to justify their defeat, history was rewritten. Let us now turn to the divine principle. In Adam's family, Abel offered a God-pleasing symbolic sacrifice and laid the foundation of faith. But in order to establish the substantial foundation, Cain had to humble himself before Abel to rid himself of the fallen nature, which manifests as envy, the desire to take another's place, and to change the order of dominion. If Cain had fulfilled this condition, they would have together created the foundation for the Messiah. But Cain killed Abel, and since then, this law has repeated itself on every level. If a nation in Abel's position fails, God takes a substitute, and providence continues through a new branch. Now let us look at the complete scheme of the distribution of nations. In the Middle East, the first Israel was Abel, and Islam became Cain. In Europe, there was an internal division. The Western Roman Empire with its Catholicism took the position of Cain, while the Eastern Roman Empire, Orthodoxy, or the Orthodox Church, became Abel. This was a repetition of the same drama within the Christian world. In the Far East, Korea became the spiritual center, the Israel of the East Abel, and Japan Cain, representing external military expansion. And at the global level, the unifying spiritual ideology always stands on the position of Abel, while the world resisting God stands on the position of Cain. What is the main conclusion we can draw from this history? First, God always works through a central Abel-type figure, but he always has a backup plan in case a people or figure fails. Second, the division into Cain and Abel exists at all levels of creation, from the individual and family to the nation and the world. Third, salvation comes only through unity, through accepting the authority of Abel, through humility and obedience. And finally, the entire history of restoration is a movement from west to east in search of a new center, when the old center falls away. Concluding our presentation, we see that all nations and all empires in history have played their role in the great providence of restoration. Every era and every nation is a step toward a single world family under God's dominion. And today, we face the same task as Cain and Abel, as Christianity and Islam, as the West and the East, to overcome division, to accept one another, and to create the foundation for the coming of the Messiah. Only through unity and love can the original world be restored. Thank you for your attention.